I just want to talk today about 3 ways that how can you find mold. If you're suspicious, how can you find mold? So one of them is mold testing plates. Dr. Don Dennis, who's an ENT who I had on the podcast recently, he loves those mold testing plates. They're for sure not the most reliable. They're for sure not the most accurate, but they're for sure the easiest and the cheapest. So that's level 1. The next one would be kind of a DIY, dust test. There's ERMIs. There's EMMAs, which stands for Environmental Mold and Mycotoxin Analysis. So that's one that I've done, personally at home and at the office. But probably my favorite these days is the dust test, www.thedusttest.com. But there's different DIY things that you can test that you're going to get more specific answers than just like what grew on a plate or what didn't grow on a plate. Then the third level is professional. That's the best, of course. Now that could be a mold inspector. And there's good, better, and best, and there's a lot of bad ones. So you want to get a good one, somebody that's really going to snoop around or really that's going to do some actual testing and looking and sleuthing. You get a mold dog. Dr. Dennis and I talked about that on the podcast, and that's a really cool and intriguing thing. They come in and sniff out mold, but professional is going to be the best. It's also going to be the most expensive. So sometimes you're not jumping to step 3. You might start with some plates. Then you might do some dust testing. But if you really want to get, behind walls or under floors or around toilets or things like that, you need some professional testing. I just had, one story today. This is literally today in my office of somebody that they found that the flange around their toilet had broke or was leaking or whatever. And they started peeling back flooring in their bathroom. And the 5th layer of flooring down was soaking wet, completely soaking wet. So they had no idea from the visible onset or what they could see or even smell or things like that. So sometimes it takes a little digging. Sometimes it takes a little bit of testing. Sometimes even if you've had testing, there's something like that hiding behind a wall or behind a floor. But if you're suspicious that your environment is making you sick and you're hearing about mold and all these things, there's a lot of just even economical concerns and things like that. And it's not always jumping to the most expensive testing, but sometimes following a trail of breadcrumbs as you go deeper. But all 3 of those serve their purpose, and all 3 of those can help you put some puzzle pieces together in your environment.